Alright, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It has been so long since I last posted. My last post was, of course, the finale of the big clone base we did. Since then, I've just been really busy with college classes and work and everything, so I haven't been able to even take this apart. But while I still have it built, I thought, why not use it as a backdrop for a tips and tricks video? So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 5 tips for beginner MOC builders. Now, I want to preface this by saying that, I don't claim to be a professional or really that advanced of a MOC builder, but in the year and a half since creating this channel, my projects went from looking pretty basic to, being definitively much more detailed. And it's really fun. I highly encourage you guys, if you're into Lego and into the hobby, to get out there and start MOC building yourself. So without further ado, let's get into tip number 1, which is going to be sourcing parts. Now, if you want to build MOCs, you're going to probably need a lot of parts of different varieties and types. And as we all know, Lego is a very expensive hobby. Whether you're buying sets or just parts in general, you're going to end up spending a lot of money, but there are ways to kind of get some more value out of the parts you're buying. So I'm going to share a couple of those ways with you right now. So when I first got back into collecting and started MOC building, I was looking on Facebook Marketplace, and I got a few bulk lots, and they were all right. They gave me a base foundation to get some different varieties of parts. But what I found was, first of all, you're kind of banking on luck that there's going to be some good deal out there, and then the stuff's messy usually and kind of dirty. And then you end up with all these parts. Like, I have this bin here of just all this junk that I'm never really going to use. So that's kind of the downside of going with Facebook. So I've really switched to just buying almost exclusively from Lego now when I'm sourcing parts. Now, I consider myself a bit lucky because I live close to 2 separate Lego stores, which allows me to pop in pretty frequently and just check out the pab wall. Now, if you don't know what the pab wall is, it stands for pick and build wall. It's a big wall of parts at the back of your Lego store. You go in and you see, and you can buy brand new Lego parts for a relatively decent price compared to just ordering them online. A quick example just to illustrate the value from the pab wall. When I was starting this project, I knew I was going to need a ton of green brick, and before ordering, I popped into the Lego store. They had some in stock, so I ended up getting 8 boxes, which totaled about 160 Canadian dollars. For reference, that's about 120 American. So those 8 boxes got me about 1,000 bricks. Now, if I were to have ordered that online, it probably would have cost me $70 or $80 more, just because ordering online can be more expensive. The pab wall does have its limitations, though. There are a lot of parts like tiles and certain foliage pieces that you're just never going to find on a pab wall. So that's when I end up ordering from Lego specifically, and that can be pretty expensive. But the nice thing is, when you order from Lego, and I think if you spend more than $15 or $20, they include free shipping. Now that brings me to my next point, which is Bricklink. Yeah, a lot of YouTubers and content creators use Bricklink. You probably see them do hauls from there or whatever. But personally, for me, because I'm from Canada, the shipping costs from some of those Bricklink American sellers are just outrageously high. So I just weigh the pros and the cons and end up just paying the premium price for new parts from Lego. That's just part of the parts sourcing experience, right? It's going to be different for everyone. You just sort of have to get out there, figure out what works best for you. But I'm just kind of sharing my experience. All right, on to beginner tip number 2, which is going to be sorting your parts. And this is going to be a personalized experience for each individual and collector. So there's just a few things I'm going to give you guys to keep in mind when you're sorting. Ideally, you would have a different bin for every single part type and color, but there are hundreds of pieces and then just all the different types of colors. That's just not realistic for anyone. So the basis of what I do when I'm sorting is I try to keep part types together instead of sorting by color. That's a mistake that I made when I started collecting Lego. So as you can see here, what I have is this bin of 1x bricks. So I can go in there. If I know I need a 1x brick, I can just see the color that I need and pick it out. Same goes for foliage and different types of bricks and slopes and everything. For example, here I have this bin of just hinge pieces. So these are all types of hinge elements, and I just keep them in one bin. And if you need a certain color, you can pick it out pretty easily out of that bin. And then same goes for all my Technic elements. And through here we have axles and different pins and everything. But due to the nature of Lego collecting, you typically get more and more parts as time goes on, especially if you're into MOC building. You just kind of need more and more parts. So this is something, the way you sort parts is just something that's going to evolve over time. So don't spend too much time trying to make it as efficient as possible, especially when you're starting out. But just keep that in mind. Don't sort by color, just try to sort by part type. Tip number 3 is going to be planning out your MOC projects. Now, this becomes more and more important as you take on bigger projects, and what it really allows you to do is allocate your budget efficiently, especially when you're looking at getting, potentially thousands and thousands of a certain part type. You really need to have a solid plan set in place. Now, some people like to do sketches and literally draw out what they're doing. Other people use a Lego software, but what I like to do is do a micro build. And I really like doing this because not only are you using Lego to plan out and build a mini version of your project, but it also really helps give your audience a great visual. In my case, I'm sharing on YouTube, so that's a great added bonus. And of course, this isn't an idea I came up with myself. I actually got this idea from Coconut Brick Studios. He pretty much does one for every large scale MOC project he does, and I've been kind of following suit and doing the same thing. Here is an example of one I did for an Imperial base. It turned out looking pretty much exactly like the finished product. Same goes for some of the clone projects I've done as well. So ultimately, I highly recommend you plan out your projects, and whether you're doing a sketch or a micro build or however you want to do it, it will help you narrow down the types of parts you're going to need, and it'll end up saving you a lot of money in the long run. At least that's what I've found. Other than buying the odd display set like the Venator or some of the helmets and things, I'm typically only buying parts for MOCs. That's kind of where I spend my Lego budget. All right, tip number 4 is going to be lighting up your MOC projects. Now, lighting is something that I got into very early on. It really has the ability to totally transform and bring your MOCs to life. As you can see here, this is the cantina I have in my existing clone base build here, and just that lighting totally brings on a new ambiance and brings some life to that cantina build. Now, this isn't sponsored or anything, but I do use Light My Bricks. This is the starter kit here, and just with this one starter kit, I was able to completely light up the base here. As you can see, I've got it all lit up, even the hallway upstairs and everything, and it just totally transforms the look of it. Without the lighting, I think it just really wouldn't look as good. It'd be all dark and dim in certain places, so I'm really happy with the result of the lighting in this build. And of course, we got the light up lightsabers as well, which not sponsored or anything, but it is from Light My Bricks as well, and those look really awesome. As you can see with the lights turned off, they just really have a nice glow to them, and I think they brought the MOC to life perfectly. All right, last but not least, tip number 5 is going to be building techniques. Now, as a beginner, there's going to be a lot of trial and error, and believe me, I had a lot of times where I built something and it just didn't look right, so I tore it apart, and you just kind of got to learn for yourself. But there are a few kind of basic techniques that you can kind of utilize and bring into your builds. They're going to really elevate the look of the MOC. And probably one of the more prominent building techniques that people in the Lego space are using is this thing called snot building. Now, that's just an acronym. It stands for studs not on top, and I prefer to just say sideways building, but all it is literally just putting bricks or pieces on their sides, which allows you to create some different shapes and things that you maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to. So I actually used this building technique on the landing pad here on the clone base. Basically what happened was I was running out of gray tile. I knew I wasn't going to have enough, so I planned on either buying more or using some sort of other part. And what I did have was all these 1x gray pieces. So I built all these slabs, laid them on their side, and I was even able to add this nice red border, which kind of highlights where a ship can land. And as you can see, the Coruscant gunship can go on there quite nicely, and it ended up turning out really nice. And it was a great way to utilize some parts that I otherwise just wouldn't have used. So to wrap up on tip number 5, there are so many creative ways to utilize parts, and you know, it just takes some experience and learning from others. I personally watch quite a bit of YouTube, and there's some people that are really talented in the Lego space, and there's lots to be learned. So you just kind of got to get out there and watch videos and learn for yourself, and you know, just don't be afraid to try new things when it comes to your MOC projects. Now, some of you more frequent viewers of my channel are probably wondering when the next MOC project is going to start. First of all, I got to take this one apart, which is going to take a bit of time. And then before I get onto another large scale one, I want to do a couple build challenge style videos. So first of all, just as a hint, my next video is going to include this set here, which I just picked up. It's the Star Destroyer, and more specifically, it's going to include Cal Kestis, which is going to be really fun. Then I got another few videos lined up before we get to the large scale project. So that's just a little bit of a roadmap for you guys. Anyways, I hope some of these beginner tips were helpful for some of you guys. And like I said earlier in the video, if you collect Lego, I highly encourage you to start MOC building. It really is quite rewarding to see what you can be creative with and come up with. Anyways, as always, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.